The idea of reincarnation has always shimmered at the edges of human understanding, a half-remembered dream that lingers just beyond the grasp of waking thought. It is a concept wrapped in the velvet of mysticism, whispered in the sacred texts of ancient religions, and debated in the hushed tones of modern metaphysics. But beneath the surface of these well-trodden discussions lies something darker, something obscured by the comforting glow of spiritual reassurance. There is a truth about reincarnation that is rarely spoken aloud, a shadowed undercurrent that flows beneath the placid waters of karma and rebirth. It is a truth that unsettles, that disrupts the neat narratives of cosmic justice and endless second chances. Imagine for a moment that life is not a straight road but a labyrinth, a twisting, turning maze where each corridor leads not to escape but to another layer of the same eternal puzzle. The promise of reincarnation, as it is often sold, is one of progress. You live, you learn, you return wiser, purer, closer to some ultimate enlightenment. But what if the cycle is not a staircase upward but a wheel, spinning endlessly, its grooves worn deep by the weight of countless repetitions? What if the soul does not ascend but merely circles, trapped in a loop of forgetting and remembering, never quite breaking free? The dark truth about reincarnation is not merely that we have lived before, it is that we may be destined to live again and again, not out of divine purpose, but because something far more enigmatic holds us here. The mechanisms of this cycle are not benevolent. They do not exist to teach us, to refine us, but perhaps to feed on us, to siphon something essential from the friction of our endless becoming. There are those who suggest that the cycle is not a school but a farm, that the energies of our struggles, our joys, our suffering, are harvested by forces we cannot see. This is not a comforting thought. It unravels the spiritual security blanket that many have wrapped around themselves, the belief that the universe is inherently just, that every life is a step toward something greater. But the universe, in its vast indifference, may not care for justice. It may only care for motion, for the perpetual churning of souls through the machinery of existence. To confront this possibility is to stare into an abyss where the light of hope flickers weakly, where the only certainty is the inevitability of return. Yet, even in this darkness, there is a strange kind of liberation. If the cycle is not what we have been told, then the rules are not fixed. The chains may have weaknesses. The wheel may have cracks. To see reincarnation not as a divine curriculum but as a system, perhaps even a prison, is the first step toward questioning it, toward seeking the exits that may have been hidden in plain sight all along. This exploration is not for the faint of heart. It demands that we relinquish the fairy tales of spiritual evolution and confront the unsettling notion that we may be both the prisoners and the architects of our own eternity. It asks us to consider that the light at the end of the tunnel may not be salvation, but another lantern held by another version of ourselves, walking the same path we have walked 1,000 times before. To peel back the layers of reincarnation's dark truth is to step into a hall of mirrors, where every reflection distorts what we think we know. The conventional narrative paints rebirth as a mechanism of growth, each life a classroom, each death a graduation into higher understanding. But what if this is merely the most palatable myth, the story we tell ourselves to soften the edges of something far more unsettling? The core themes lurking beneath the surface suggest that reincarnation is not a benevolent teacher but an inescapable current, pulling us back into the river of existence whether we will it or not. One of the most pervasive illusions is the idea of karmic justice, the belief that every action is weighed, measured, and repaid in kind across lifetimes. It is a comforting thought, this cosmic balance sheet where tyrants become victims and saints are rewarded. But the dark truth whispers that karma may not be justice at all. It may simply be momentum, an impersonal force that binds actions to consequences without moral intent. A murderer in one life does not become a victim in the next because the universe demands fairness, but because violence begets violence, and the wheel turns without preference for redemption. The cycle does not care if we learn. It only ensures that we return. Another buried concept is the role of forgetting. Why, if reincarnation is meant for growth, do we remember nothing of our past lives? The answer may not lie in spiritual necessity but in something more mechanical. Forgetting is the glue that holds the cycle together. If we recalled every betrayal, every loss, every love severed by death's inevitability, the weight of eternity might crush us. Or worse, it might awaken us to the futility of the game. Amnesia is not a hurdle to overcome but a lock on the prison door, ensuring we engage anew each time, convinced that this life, this story, is the one that matters. Then there is the question of who or what orchestrates this cycle. Is it divine will, an impersonal law of nature, or something else entirely? Ancient traditions speak of demiurges and archons, of false gods who feed on the energy of trapped souls. Modern esoteric thought sometimes echoes this, suggesting that the reincarnation system is not a path to enlightenment but a harvesting mechanism, where the raw material of human experience is siphoned off by forces unseen. Whether these forces are literal or symbolic, the implication remains. The cycle may not exist for us at all. Perhaps the most chilling theme is the absence of an exit. Most spiritual systems promise an eventual release. Nirvana, moksha, ascension. But what if these are illusions too? Carrots dangled to keep us running the maze. The dark truth suggests that true escape is rarer than we are led to believe, that even those who seem to break free may simply be shifting to another layer of the labyrinth. The cycle is self-sustaining, self-perpetuating, and its greatest trick is making us believe we can leave. Yet within these grim realizations lies a paradoxical power. To see the machinery is to begin the search for its weak points. If karma is momentum, can it be redirected? If forgetting is the lock, can memory be the key? And if the cycle feeds on our participation, what happens when we refuse to play the game? There is an ancient story, whispered in fragments across cultures, of a great wheel that turns endlessly in the void. Its spokes are made of time, its rim slick with the tears of countless lives. The wheel is tended by silent figures, not gods, not demons, but something older, something that does not sleep. They do not turn the wheel. They only watch as it turns itself, as it grinds souls into dust and remakes them anew. This is not a myth of hope. It is a warning. The wheel appears in many forms. In the East, it is samsara, the cycle of birth and death that can only be escaped through enlightenment. But enlightenment, the story suggests, is not a shining beacon atop a mountain. It is the sudden, terrible realization that the mountain itself is an illusion. A man spends 1,000 lifetimes climbing, only to reach the summit and find himself back at the base. His memories wiped clean, his triumph undone. The wheel laughs in silence. In the West, the wheel wears different masks. The Greeks spoke of the fates, 3 sisters who spin, measure, and cut the thread of each life. But the darkest versions of the myth hint that even the fates are bound to the wheel, that their scissors are blunted, their threads endless. Orpheus, who nearly escaped the underworld with his love, learned the cruelest truth. The wheel permits no exceptions. His backward glance was not a mistake. It was the wheel ensuring its victory. Then there are the stories hidden in plain sight. The tale of the Ouroboros, the serpent that eats its own tail, is not just a symbol of eternity. It is a portrait of the soul trapped in the act of self-consumption. With each rebirth, we devour our past selves, thinking we grow larger, only to realize too late that we are still coiled in the same circle, biting down on our own existence. Perhaps the most revealing narrative comes from the Gnostic traditions, which speak of the archons, false rulers who fashioned this world as a prison for light. They do not torment souls directly. They simply design the wheel to keep them turning, to keep them hungry, to keep them dreaming they are free. The Gnostic escape was not through virtue or obedience, but through gnosis, the shattering knowledge that the world is a lie, and the wheel a construct that can be broken. These stories are not mere fables. They are maps scratched onto the walls of the prison, left by those who glimpsed the truth. They tell us that the cycle is older than gods, that its mechanisms are impersonal, that its keepers are indifferent. But they also whisper something else, that every system has a flaw, that every will has a weak spoke. The question is not whether escape is possible, but whether we dare to seek it. To grasp the dark truth of reincarnation is not merely an exercise in cosmic speculation. It is a call to reshape how we move through the world. If the wheel turns not for our benefit but by our unconscious participation, then every moment becomes a potential point of rebellion. The implications ripple outward, touching how we live, how we suffer, and most crucially, how we awaken. Consider first the nature of desire, that eternal engine which drives us from one life to the next. Society conditions us to crave more possessions, more status, more experiences, as if accumulation could fill some void within. But what if that void is not ours? What if it is the wheel's design, a hunger implanted to ensure we return again and again, chasing satisfaction in a game rigged so we never win? The practical response is not asceticism but discernment, to interrogate every desire, to ask whether it serves our liberation or the cycle's perpetuation. Every want unmet is a hook unused. Then there is the matter of trauma, the wounds that seem to echo across lifetimes. Modern psychology speaks of inherited pain, of fears with no discernible origin. The esoteric perspective goes further. These are not metaphors but residues, scars carried from lives we cannot remember. A child born with a phobia of drowning, a revolutionary who inexplicably trembles before authority. These may not be quirks of genetics but remnants of a past the wheel has not fully erased. The transformative approach is not to dismiss such shadows as irrational, but to engage them as clues. In remembering, we disrupt the wheel's first law. Forgetting. Relationships, too, take on new dimensions under this lens. The people we love fiercely at first sight, the enemies who provoke inexplicable rage. These could be old actors in an endless play, their roles written long before we took the stage. But here lies a pivotal choice: to repeat the same dramas in blind obedience, or to rewrite the script. When a pattern reveals itself, betrayals that recur, toxic dynamics that feel eerily familiar, that is the wheel's fingerprint. To break the pattern is to wear down its grooves. Even time itself shifts when viewed through this prism. Linear history may be the wheel's most insidious illusion, the lie that we are moving forward when we are actually running in place. Indigenous cultures speak of spiral time, of events that rhyme across epochs. The practical application is radical presence. If the past and future are illusions maintained by the cycle, then the now is the only place where the wheel's grip loosens. Every moment fully inhabited is a stitch undone in the fabric of repetition. None of this is passive. It demands a ruthless commitment to awareness, a willingness to question every assumption about how reality operates. The world will reward sleep, with distractions, with comforts, with the anesthesia of normalcy, because the wheel thrives on unconscious participation. But each act of waking, each refusal to comply, is a tremor in the machinery. The wheel has been turning for millennia, its rhythm so deeply etched into the fabric of existence that we mistake its rotations for the natural order. We are born, we strive, we suffer, we die, only to repeat the process with different faces, different names, but the same essential currents pulling us back into the stream. The dark truth about reincarnation is not merely that it exists, but that it may not be the benevolent teacher we have been led to believe. It might instead be a self-sustaining mechanism, indifferent to our suffering, feeding on the energy of our endless returns. Yet, in this realization lies a paradoxical liberation. If the cycle is not divine, then its rules are not absolute. If forgetting is the lock, then remembrance is the key. If desire is the bait, then detachment becomes the path to freedom. The call now is not to despair at the enormity of the wheel, but to recognize that every moment of true awareness is a fracture in its foundation. This is not a journey for the complacent. It demands vigilance, a willingness to question the stories we've been told, the desires we've been conditioned to chase, and even the spiritual comforts we cling to. Many traditions speak of enlightenment as a blissful merging with the infinite, but few acknowledge that the first stage of awakening is often a profound disillusionment, a shattering of the myths that kept us asleep. To see the wheel for what it is to stand at the threshold of a choice. Continue spinning or step off. The transformational call, then, is not to transcendence in some distant future, but to rebellion in the here and now. Every act of genuine self-awareness, every refusal to play out old karmic scripts, every moment of presence wrested from the jaws of distraction, these are the ways we weaken the wheel's hold. The path is not etched in sacred texts or secret doctrines. It is written in the choices we make daily. Do we follow the well-worn grooves of habit and conditioning, or do we carve new trails? Perhaps the ultimate revelation is this: the wheel's greatest power is our belief in its inevitability. The moment we realize it can be broken, the first crack appears. And once a single soul slips through, the illusion weakens for all. This is not an ending, but an invitation to live as if freedom is already possible, to question everything, and to remember, even when the world insists you forget. The wheel turns, but it does not have to turn you.